This is lesson 40 for course 1, using 0 as a placeholder and circle graphs. So using 0 as a placeholder, we're going to brief through really quickly because we already do it, because it's something that I tell you all the time in lesson that I do, because I just like to know something is there and I'm not just looking at a blank space. So what they're talking about when they're talking about using 0 as a placeholder is they're talking about, like, let's say we are subtracting 5/10 and 23/100. Okay, I've lined up my decimals. Instead of leaving this place blank, like they have been in the book that I have not been showing you, is they put a 0 here to show that it's just holding a place. There is nothing there. It's just holding that place, saying potentially there could be something there, but there's nothing there right now. For me, I've always done it, and I've always done it in our lessons because visually, I just like to see all of my columns with something in them. So I do it all the time, and that's why you're more used to it. But that's what they're talking about in lesson, is us doing this, is us just putting a 0 in where it's needed, because the 0 at the end of a number like this, as long as you're not moving anything else, doesn't affect the number. So let's take a look at one of their examples that they have. Another example they have is 3 take away 4/10. Okay. Now, again, I always tell you need to line up your decimals. So you'd be doing 3. Remember, there's an imaginary decimal there. And then you'd be doing decimal 4. Now, in the books, previously, they never put a 0 here. I always have, and this is the 0, using a 0 as a placeholder, is because there is still nothing there. Whether it looks like that or whether it looks like that, there is still nothing there. I am not taking 4 from anything. But the 0, to me, just visually looks nicer because you know you haven't messed up and made things where they shouldn't be, and I just like to see something there. Remember, 0 is nothing. Its entire purpose is a placeholder. Its entire purpose is to say something could be here, but it's not right now. Okay, that's what the using 0 as a placeholder is. That is what they're talking about. So, circle graphs. Circle graphs you have probably seen before. They're quite common. We use similar things in fractions all the time. Is you have a circle and then you have so many pieces of that circle cut up. So for example, if I had a circle like this is dogs, cats, okay, and for this one, it's given us all the numbers, which is fabulous. Now, if we're looking at this as just fractions, let's break this down into fractions to start with, okay? There are half dogs, right? Half of my circle, if my drawing was a little bit nicer, half of my circle is dogs, okay? A quarter of my circle is cats, because if I were to take here and I broke it into 4 equal pieces, one of those pieces is cats, okay? Just like if I did this and I went across, 2 quarters would be dogs, 1 quarter is cats. And we all know 2 quarters is equal to a half. So half is dog, quarter is cats. Then I come to these ones and I'd have to figure out, well, what fraction are these? Well, this is half of a quarter. Okay. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this would be 1/8 birds and 1/8 fish. Another way to figure this out would be looking at the numbers themselves. So this is 16, 8, 4, and 4. Okay? Half of 16 is 8. Half of 8 is 4. Okay? You need 2 4s to make an 8, which tells me that these are eighths and not quarters, or tenths, or fifths, or whatever else. Okay? You can tell those by the numbers. Half of 16 is 8. A quarter is half of a half. Half of 8 is 4. Eighths, okay, are half of a quarter. So these are all of our fractions. Now, if we're using those fractions, we can then use those fractions to say different things, okay? So A for this question is how many pets are represented in the graph? Well, how many pets do we have altogether? Well, we have 16 plus 8 plus 4 plus 4. Okay. However, instead of doing 16 plus 8 plus 4 plus 4, we already know that 16 is half. And half plus half equals a whole. So that means all we have to do is 16 plus 16. 16 plus 16 is much easier than doing everything else. 16 plus 16 is 32. Okay. B, it says, what fraction of the pets are birds? Well, we've already figured that out. Birds are 1/8. 1/8 of the fraction of the circle is birds because we have half, quarter is half of a half, an eighth is half of a quarter. So if I take this quarter, I split it in half, I would have eighths. And C, what percent of the pets are dogs? Well, what percent? Now it's different. So you take this fraction, and these ones you should have memorized. If you have the fraction half, your percentage is 50%. Okay? Okay, so this is just one of the ones you should have memorized from previous days. Is half is 50%, just like a quarter is 25%. And then we just keep going down. Okay, notice that 25 is half of 50. We just keep going down halves and halves and halves and halves. So this is a circle graph. A circle graph is just a quick way for you to be able to look at a pile of information. This information was about pets. Okay, it's a quick way for you to visually be able to see, oh, the majority of people have dogs. The next biggest is cats, and then birds and fish are the smallest but equal. Okay, it's a quick representation of data. That's what a circle graph does. It gives you a quick representation of the data you are looking at. That is lesson 40, using zeros as placeholder and circle graphs for course 1.